Everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about CinemaCon. We'll be talking about the Disney Junior Fun Fest. We'll also be talking about this week's major new releases, including Moon Knight and also Crush, plus much more. But before we jump into that, quick little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube. You can also subscribe on the audio platforms. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook. Be sure to join our Facebook group. We also have a Patreon where you can support us as well. And also, as of this week, we also have the new thanks option now available to us on YouTube. So if you enjoy our content, feel free to contribute because it all helps towards paying for all of our services that we have. Right, so let's jump into the news. There's quite a little bit of it this week. We're going to start off, I think, we'll start off with CinemaCon because that was definitely a major one. So this took place this past week in Las Vegas. It's primarily aimed at cinema owners, cinema chains, and the whole cinema process. So you had all the big studios there, like 20th Century, also Disney was there. You had Universal, you had was it Warner Brothers, Sony. So we've been hearing lots of news about movies all week. Some of the studios made announcements, but generally it's more about doing the business side of things. It was all very much along the lines of, hi everybody, we're back. It was just like, we know the last 2 years we were just streaming, well now we want the box office. So yeah, they all came back. I think there was something interesting. I think it was actually on the NBC one where one of the execs did actually call out these cinemas and say, guys, can you knock down the trailers a little bit and get people into the movies quicker because that might help. I thought that was quite interesting that they pulled up on that, like the idea of like, let's be honest, we don't need that many trailers. The only reason we'll definitely now be there early for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness next week, because we're going to be getting the first look at Avatar 2, aka Avatar Way of the Water, or Way of Water, one of the ways of saying it, which is going to be coming out just before Christmas. So yeah, we got our first look. So they're going to be doing that a week in cinemas before it then gets released online. So if you're not going to go see Doctor Strange, you can just have to wait. There's been a few images have started sneaking out with some watermarks and stuff, which still looks great. I can't wait for Avatar, I'll be honest. I'm really looking forward to this film.
I forgot it existed, honestly. Yeah. And they're announcing, yeah, you need to go see Doctor Strange and see the trailer. I'm like, no, I need to see Doctor Strange because I want to watch Doctor Strange. I don't even remotely care about this trailer.
Well, I think they've made a perfect. I think this is a perfect way of you kind of going to Marvel fans. Here is the trailer. Here's a reminder of what Avatar is about. Because we've got, what, 4 movies coming up every 2 years from this year onwards, right through to the end of the decade. I always loved the first one. I don't know, like, do you feel like, obviously, like we've both been to the world of Pandora in Walt Disney World. Do you feel like that, like, helped, like, set this? For me, it always felt like once I did the ride, which is amazing, you've got to do that Flight of Passage ride. It was almost that kind of thing, like, yeah, Disney have put their foot firmly in the ground on this franchise for decades.
Well, yeah, the Pandora area of Animal Kingdom is great. It's fun to explore. I wish there was more to do there, but the one ride, at the very least, Flight of Passage, is, I think it's my favorite ride at Disney right now, and that is including things like Smuggler's Run and Rise of Resistance and things like that. But at the same time, it's like that's the best thing we got out of the franchise by a long shot, and it's hard to think of it as a franchise because it had such a minimal impact on like anything. The movie did fantastic at the box office. It ushered in the wave of 3D movies, which was a terrible idea. I might be biased. I might be biased by that because the type of 3D that they broadcast it with gives me a migraine. So I'm not fond of that 3D, and I'm a little biased against that, but I honestly don't remember the movie at all. There was a giant fight between them riding their lizard things and helicopters and spears going through helicopters, and that's about all I remember.
I only watched it at Christmas again. I know I've seen it a number of times. I think I've watched it on Disney Plus at least twice. I really enjoy. I don't like 3D because I don't find wearing 2 pairs of glasses the most fun experience, because you not only have you got the glare in the shaped rim of your first pair of glasses, you only got a second pair of glasses. So it's just not comfortable, especially so. I will be I mean, my aim for Avatar is I will try my best to see if there's a 2D showing of it, because I just don't like wearing the glass. I just find it really uncomfortable wearing two pairs of glasses. I don't know why I know why he's carrying on with the 3D, because he wants he's obviously, that's his baby, but also it raises the price up, because we've not really had, I would call, a proper 3D experience film for a long time, because the market just decided it wasn't interested in 3D. Really, the concept of 3D TVs. I mean, I haven't been to see a 3D film at the cinema. I can't remember the last time. It's gotta be 5 to 10 years. I started just finding if they had a non 3D version, I'd go to that instead. And yeah, I think I remember definitely watching Avengers. Was Avengers in 3D?
Which
first one?
Avengers? The first one had a 3D release, definitely. A lot of the Marvel films had 3D releases.
Yeah, see, we were in the front of the cinema, in the front row, in the corner, with a 3D pair of glasses on, and it just was so blurry, and it was just like, this didn't work. So yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with 3D. When it works, it can be a great experience. It can really increase the immersion, because it feels more depth. And we're not talking about like or like the Muppets 3D surprise jokes with the can of snakes coming out, or the Gonzo with the little thing. We're not talking about that.
I love that, right? I do it every time. I love it.
I make sure to go to it at least once every time I go in there. But no, when it's done properly, and I think Avatar did it properly, was, it increases your depth perception. It really does increase your immersion. The problem was nobody was able to do it properly, or they would only do it for like one particular scene of the movie, and the rest of it would just be boring 3D. I will say, if Cameron is doing it, James Cameron is doing it, then chances are it will be done properly. But again, I get migraines from the type of 3D that they do at theaters. So even if I wanted to see it in 3D, it would not be smart for me to do that. So no.
I always worry again with like them setting off my migraines as well. So which is why I've probably always been even more cautious. I think there's just that thing about this film. I almost feel like this trailer could be that catalyst to kind of remind everybody that, like, oh yeah, that actually was good. And I think the trouble is, for a lot of people, it's hard when they kind of go, right, yeah, we've got 4 movies coming out, we've dated them all, we've already filmed like 3 of them, and you're like, yeah, but we don't. I know you had the biggest movie of all time, but you've left it a long time. But I never bet against Cameron, because he's done an amazing amount of stuff. I don't know. I'm really looking for, and I'm being really glad of having a new franchise over this next decade. It'd be quite nice to have Disney throwing in some other stuff, as well as sort of Marvel. We've got video games. There's going to be a whole host of stuff that come alongside of this. So I'm looking forward. I think I'm looking forward to watching that trailer. It's actually gone like, yeah, good. I'm going to make sure. Before I was like, well, shall I just? It's always that thing of like, do you turn up a little bit early? Or do you turn up for the time they say, or do you go, oh, well, not 10-15 minutes off because of all the ads, at which point they usually start with ads. It's always that catch-22. If I go early or if I go on time, there will be 25 minutes of trailers. If I decide to go, I'll just go 10-20 minutes later, they won't have the ads.
It's hard to predict how long the ads are going to be these days, because I've been to a couple movies, and one time the ads were only 5 to 7 minutes. There were only like 2 trailers in front of it. And then especially when we were first coming back into theaters, it was like, here's 40 minutes of trailers, and not quite that bad. I think the worst I ever clocked out was like 32 minutes of trailers. And just like, I want to see the movie, please, guys.
It wouldn't be so bad. It's like, I know for like my cinema that's gone so cheap, so they've probably thrown in a few extra ads, but it's like, you are paying for it, so it's a bit like, it's just an annoyance. So so we're gonna have that one. They also announced at the same time we're gonna be getting a new film called Amsterdam, coming on November the 4th from 20th Century. So this one's gonna have a big cast, including Margot Robbie. You've also got Christian Bale, Taylor Swift, Mike Myers, Zoe Sandler, Chris Rock. So there's gonna be a big amount of cast in there. We don't really know anything about this one. But it's a romantic crime epic about 3 close friends who find themselves at one of the most shocking secret plots in American history. So that one, the still looked all right. We also had people at the event got to see like the first 6 minutes of Bob's Burgers movie. I still can't quite get the excitement over that. I've tried watching a few episodes, and I even ran a burger cafe. You know, I used to cook burgers for 20 years, so maybe that's why I got like no interest of getting into it. Like, you just cooking burgers.
For me, it's always been the animation style. I'm not a fan of
it's a bit, yeah,
but it is an extremely popular franchise. It goes right alongside, you know, Simpsons and Family Guy in the Fox lineup. I think the movie will probably do very well.
Yes. Also at the event, they got to see about 30 minutes of Lightyear, which apparently it's from people that were at the event. They loved it. Not a huge surprise. Lots of tears, lots of great stuff in that one. So I'm looking forward to watching Lightyear. So that'll be hitting cinemas in June. They also got to see 20 minutes of Doctor Strange too, which obviously is out next week. So those movies will all be hitting Disney Plus, at least everywhere else. Probably, I don't know when they might likely to hit. I mean, they were. This is something I did want to sort of bring up with you. It's like the way they've been talking at this event. I don't know if this, and this is not just Disney, but other studios as well. I'm not quite sure if the 45 day. I don't think they're going to go fully back to the 90 day, even the 6 month thing. I just wonder if they're going to slightly ease the pedal off the 45 day a little bit, especially on these big releases. It almost feels like with Batman, for example, that's recently gone onto HBO Max in the US, not over here. It's still 17 quid to rent it, which I refuse to do. To be honest, if it was on the platform, I would have watched it, but I'm not paying 17 quid to rent it for 48 hours.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Right? If it's a 45-day window, that feels tolerable. As I'll just wait for it to come onto HBO Max or Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But even bumping it up to 60 days, like numerically, it's not that many. It's 15 days. It's 2 weeks plus an extra. But the psychological difference between 45 days and 60 days is actually quite big. You're like, 60 days. You know, I'll go catch it out on like a matinee time or something like that, or maybe there'll be a discount on it. So I don't see them going back to 90. They might. Some of the companies are very not greedy, but you know, they don't want anything to take away from the box office numbers.
But I understand. I understand the concept of, you know, if you've got a movie that's still bringing in millions of pounds every single week, of like, well, why would we want to rush? Yeah, okay, we see it with movies like Encanto, where the numbers have been impressive on streaming. I mean, it's literally back to being the number one movie again, beating back everything because everyone's been watching it. But do they cut off a little bit of the box office numbers to get it onto streaming a little bit earlier? I mean, I'm quite. I mean, for me, 60 days, 80 days. You know, because they've done that with some of the Marvel films. I still think that's pretty good. I still don't think that's, you know, I don't want to go back to the 6-9 months that we had pre-COVID, you know, because like I think like Frozen 2 was, or even like Rise of Skywalker was nearly 6 months in that one got put on, and even then they said it was early. So I don't know. I just feel like the 45-day, the way that they've all been talking, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they just slide it back. But I also can see them doing what Disney do, where they don't actually announce stuff. They see how the film's doing, and then if it's not making money at the cinema, then they rush it onto box streaming. And if it's making money at streaming, or at the box office, you just go, yeah, just give it a couple more weeks. We'll just kind of. And also, my big thing with the 45-day one is I don't feel like they can really get the advertising going properly for it, because they're constantly worried. They don't want us. You know, we've seen it with Disney. They will put out the next on Disney Plus list and leave off like Encanto or Eternals because they literally don't want to mention it. They want to hold off a little bit because they want you to go to cinema. So they obviously can't even get the campaign running. So I don't know like whether or not the extra 2 weeks could help them, you know, like at 45 days. Right now we will announce the date at 45 days and maybe it's 2 weeks, or to give them a window. I don't know. It's just I can't help but feel like that they might shift it a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a reason why back in the day, you know, you didn't even announce the DVD or the VHS release of a movie until after it left theaters in most cases, and that was simply because 60 days you might be I'll go see it now because I actually really want to see it, but they just announced it's coming out in a week and a half on Disney Plus or Paramount Plus, or I don't need to see it now. I can wait a week and a half. So it definitely cannibalizes some sales, even if you're at the tail end of the run where you're only making a little bit. But obviously, they get a much bigger return on investment per person going into the theater than they do per person watching it on streaming.
But also as well, I mean, if it feels like, I feel like you almost need to take Marvel out of the equation, because they've got this, you've got that experience of seeing it in the first few days. It's like me, I wanted to go see it as early as possible because I want to avoid spoilers and I want to watch it. Whereas like, something like The Kingsman didn't have that. And so, it was over Christmas and then it was on New Year, and then we're like, oh, I'll just wait. And I just, Death on the Nile was another one where it was like, I can wait for this. I don't need to do it. Whereas, Thor, Love and Thunder, and also Doctor Strange is like day one. I'm thinking with Lightyear, I might go. I might go see it early or at the cinema, but I'm still not. It's like, do I need to see it at the cinema? It's that kind of thing. Like, can I wait 2 months or even a month? Because I don't even know. I mean, they did it with Encanto. They only did it 30 days. I don't know. It's very tricky. But CinemaCon was very much about them kind of just all the studios kind of saying, look, this is the system we're going to be using. All of our big films are going to come to cinema. We still want theatrical. We still think it's the best way. We still think obviously it's a lot better to make money there before dropping it onto the streaming service. And the streaming services are already starting to find that actually the movies are worth more when they hit streaming service, because people have been waiting for them or will watch them again. The numbers aren't that far off what an original is, like Turning Red or The Adam Project. There's some of these big movies can actually still, Encanto's beat all of them, and they had a 30-day cinema, and I feel like that might be the way that they're all looking. Again, Netflix had their whole issue with their system, and I think all the studios are going, you know what, your system's not working. We're going to carry on doing the one that makes us millions or billions. I think that's definitely a case now.
It's important to remember that the vast majority of income from movies comes from the box office, ignoring merchandise, which is where money actually comes in for a lot of these movies. But box office money typically is going to be much higher than streaming money. But on the flip side, it costs more money to distribute to box offices than it does to just put it up on the streaming platform. So if you've got a major blockbuster, Lightyear, any of the Marvel movies, Star Wars movies, anything by Pixar, or the animation division at Disney, it's going to be worthwhile for them to spend the money to distribute it to theater chains across the country and across the world. But something smaller, in quotes, smaller, like Death on the Nile or whatever, they might be like, yeah, we would make X million dollars on this, but it would cost us Y million dollars to distribute it and advertise for it. Makes more sense for us to just put it right onto streaming.
The only side effect to that is, you look at some of them and like, oh, especially if it's a bit more of an expensive film, we'll like make some extra money back on the side. I mean, I think Encanto has maybe made the animated ones, those windows might be a little bit shorter, because I think they might find that the engagement with kids and merchandise sales is more beneficial to get it out much quicker than because people will go see it to begin with and over the summer and stuff, but generally that repeat viewing, if it's still in the cinema, it will still have some trickle. But I think Encanto showed that there's a whole other way they could do things with this like much shorter system. And I think Pixar needs this cinema release. I mean, it needs Lightyear to kind of, after the last 3 movies of the issues they've had, I think they need this next film to be, and the same thing with Strange World. I'd rather they had the Encanto system where they got 30 days and then came to it, because I feel like they're too big. They're too big of movies, and we still want them to make them. That's the key thing. I want them to keep making them because they're profitable, and they're shown to they're massive hits for streaming, but it's like, make 200 million, 300 million at the box office, get your money back, and then everything on top of that is just pure, just better. I don't know. I just looking at like CinemaCon and going, I think then they're no longer chasing the Netflix system as the one way, as I think they were maybe thinking COVID. But I do think cinema's still changed after the pandemic. I still don't think people are going to go back in the same numbers. I don't think people will ever go back in the same numbers as before, because we've all got big TVs with sound systems and just comfort and ease of use. And I think the older audience have just gone like, yeah, it's not. It's there's just this going to the cinema doesn't mean the same anymore, and there's just so many movies. I think that's the other key thing.
Well, even before COVID, I always kind of had the mentality of there are some movies that you should watch in theaters because they're big blockbuster spectacle things. We're talking like the superhero movies, action movies, things that really take advantage of having the big screen. But do you need, a rom-com on the big screen? You don't really get any benefit out of that versus sitting at home, unless you're one of those people who like can't laugh at a movie unless everyone else is laughing at it. Get that theater effect going on.
Well, the thing is, I will say, not necessarily to, but this is that experience that I had with those first 2 episodes of Moon Knight, where I watched it at home, and then I went to that special event in London and got to watch it with people, and it was very different with people because of the way people were reacting to it. Same thing with Dopesick. I went to the premiere in London for that and got to see the first 2 episodes, and seeing it in a theater did feel different to them when you sat and watching episode 3 at home. And there is a difference, but at the same time, there is that part of you that's just like, I don't know, for us, we do it a lot on a Sunday afternoon. We'll rent a movie. Me and my wife will sit down, we'll have a look, see if there's anything on Amazon or on Netflix, any of their major movies, if anything's that's got a lot of attention, or we'll just rent a movie. And we do that pretty much most Sundays, where we'll just watch a movie. And I will admit, I do try to pick a movie that's not Disney because I do like to try and that's just like so I can turn off and just enjoy it, and that's kind of big, something that we like to do on a weekend. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that have got into that. You get your treats in, you turn every, and you literally just sit there and watch it.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
But do you need to go to the theater for that? Versus
my wife wouldn't go. My wife wouldn't go because she just finds it so uncomfortable.
But there's also a lot of people who argue the other way, which is the theater experience is superior even for, I don't want to say smaller movies, but non-action, non-spectacle movies. And there is a big contingent of people who prefer it that way. But either way, it's definitely going to be different moving forward, how people view going to the theater versus not going to the theater. And I will also say, like, people who thought that Disney wanted to push for only streaming, who wanted to go purely Netflix in the style, is like, no, they never wanted to do that. Even they had to do a lot of things for COVID, and I'm sure there were a lot of things that came out of that. They're like, oh, this is actually a really good idea. Let's keep doing that. But the money's at the box office, and that's
yeah. So I always felt Disney were very. I know they got a lot of heat for moving some films over, like Mulan, and obviously the Premier Access. They got a lot of reaction from like the box office side of the cinemas and people that were like, you've got to put it back in. Like, I always felt Premier Access was like that thing of like, guys, we're trying to really just give you guys the best of both worlds here. You can go see it at the cinema and do it. Taking some movies away. I felt like Soul was a prime example of that one that maybe did better. I still think Luca probably could have gone out as a theatrical release because it was the summer and things were a little bit better. Turning Red was a little bit of a tricky one because I think the world was very different when it got released in March with how people were looking at it to when they had to make that callback in December when the variant was just popping up and everything was like, oh, we're going to have to shut everything down. And I think Disney just put look, we can't go on this. We just have to make a decision and go with it. But I definitely feel like a theatrical release makes sense to pull in more. It does feel like a much bigger movie. We've got things like Chippendale Rescue Rangers coming out, and because it's a straight to streaming movie, it does have it does have that thing attached to it. It's not quite in the same league. I'll be honest, I would be going and seeing Chippendale Rescue Rangers at the cinema if it was there because I like Chippendale Rescue Rangers and I thought the trailer looked good. But I can also see why you can do it if you can make low budget movies. They're actually more valuable on streaming.
Yeah, no, I love Rescue Rangers, and I thought the trailer was awful, so I would not be touching that movie if it went to theaters. I'd be waiting for it to come out on streaming anyway. But yeah, there is a difference in perception, and I know that Pixar in particular felt like losing 3 movies to streaming only could have been a hit against their reputation. A lot of them were kind of disgruntled. They probably had bonuses attached to how well they do.
I don't think animation does, but it's kind of. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure that there are perks involved with them getting a big blockbuster hit. So while I appreciated that Disney put on this top tier content for free on the store as part of your subscription package for the Disney Pixar movies, I do at least understand why Pixar was upset with that. And I'm glad that they're going to get the full release with Lightyear. Yeah,
and I don't think it helped with Encanto getting the mini release, and then like Raya getting the hybrid release as well, Premier Access, and and then Pixar didn't, because maybe with Luca they could have gone. I don't know if it's Turning Red was a very different movie. I feel like in terms
I think Turning Red would have made it. It would have done fine. It might not have done like what you expect a Pixar movie to do, but that'd be more the environment rather than anything else. I think Turning Red did benefit from going into streaming though, because it did. Whether intentionally or otherwise, it ended up being controversial because people are idiots. But but if it had been in theaters, that might not have stirred it up quite as much, and it would have gotten less name recognition for it. And also, with the important conversations that it had, I think giving it to a wider audience as part of the Disney package was probably the better choice in the long run. But again, Pixar deserves to have their hits. They deserve to get that number next to the release that says we made X amount of money, which they can hold up as a positive sign. To
me as well, it's just more about the fact of just like, I want Pixar to make the money on those movies to make more better movies. It's like catch-22. But then Turning Red, Soul, and Luca were all huge hits for Disney Plus, and they are, the executives are like, we can see that, they are the most watched movies for a month. They're beating out everything on Netflix. It's like, this thing is worth money in a different way. But also, I do wonder now that Netflix has started to kind of pull the rug a little bit on its animation side a little bit more. They're being more picky. They've this whole thing of, we're just going to go to the money bags over at Netflix has been like the purse has been zipped up a bit, and it's going to be much harder for them to get stuff greenlit now, because the streaming, I would say the streaming bubble has probably it's got a hole in it and it's starting to squeak as it's going down a bit now. I wouldn't say it's popped. It's just going.
Well, they need an alternate revenue source is what it comes down to. But it's ironic to me because some of the biggest hits at Netflix are their animated features. Obviously, Stranger Things is not animated, but Arcane was really, really popular last year, and that was animated. BoJack Horseman was one of their most popular serialized shows. Went on for 6 seasons or something like that. And then even some smaller buzz things like Claws, which is their Christmas movie from a couple years ago. It's one of the best things on the service, honestly. But animation does seem to be their primary chopping block item at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of funny because this is going to lead into our next topic. So I'm going to bring it up now while we're doing it. So Disney held a special event at Disney's California Adventure theme park yesterday. So this was the Disney Junior Fun Fest. At the event, they announced some new shows, including Hey AJ, which is inspired by a former Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion, and it's all about a imaginative 7-year-old girl who imagines a long car drive as it's a rocket or something. They also announced Kindergarten the musical. So it's an animated series all about the first young kids' experiences while attending kindergarten. Got Robo a Go-Go or Robo Gobo. So that's about 5 adorable pets without a home until a kid inventor adopts them and gives them super-powered robo suits. Actually, that doesn't sound too bad.
No, that's actually that sounds adorable.
Yeah, and then we got Super Kitties. This one is about 4 fierce and furry superhero kittens who go on a mission to make Kittydale a more caring and pawsome place, defeating villains and stuff. So that's there. They also announced some new short series, including Me and Mickey, which is a vlog-style video short with Disney's #1 star Mickey Mouse as he invites preschoolers to laugh and play. Winnie the Pooh, so there's going to be a musical short form involving the characters from Winnie the Pooh. They've also renewed Alice Wonderland Bakery for season 2. They've also announced some casts and stuff for the upcoming shows like Marvel Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Mickey Mouse Funhouse, Eureka, Firebuds, and Pupstruction. And also, not even that, they also announced, this past week, we got trailers for some new shows as well, including like a new superhero wrestling show and stuff. And I think this is where Netflix was getting a lot of attention about getting in on wanting to be better than Disney at making kids shows and animation and kids shows, and they were going to be able to beat them. Well, they've already had a bit of a wobble, whereas Disney now are just right, we've got a load of stuff coming to Disney Junior and Disney Channel and Disney Plus. It's all now kind of being looked at as one quick thing. New series, they've got 30 plus animated series in development, all for preschool. They're fully going in on it. It's their bread and butter. They know what they're doing. They've got 100 years of history of this. They know they can make money on merchandise if they get this right. They can put them into the parks, the parades, because they had a parade and stuff with them as well. Disney know what they're doing with this, and this, all those announcements, just these are all shows that will be coming up in the next couple of years. They're not for us, but they're for the next generation. It's funny because there was talk as well of an Ice Age baby shows, and everyone's going, hey, it's I'm sitting there going, yeah, I know you guys all want Ice Age, but this is a preschool kids show. It's for 4 or 5 year olds in 2 years' time. They're probably not even born yet, these kids that are going to be watching it. It's for them. It's kind of thing target audience. Not every, it's we don't watch Spidey and His Amazing Friends. We might like Marvel, but we can watch, we don't have to watch everything that the characters are in. And it was just Disney have a market with this, and these shows have been their bread and butter for a long time. So yeah, it's just great to see Disney kind of know what they're doing with this stuff, and they seem to have aligned better now with Disney Plus and Disney Junior, Disney channels. There just doesn't seem to be that split anymore. They get mentioned in every press release. They got the batch. However, it's a bit of a funky way of releasing stuff right now with Disney Channel stuff, but they seem to be getting more in line and going, it's just a dual. And even the recently the Discovery Warner boss pretty much has said we need to kind of treat linear and streaming together because the streaming system on its own isn't working. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of this push of doing that.
As long as they work together on it, because that was the big thing, especially when Disney Plus first launched, was there was a very clear divide between this is our property and this is the TV property, and they did not really meet. And I think working together, both sides will benefit from it. So hopefully they get past any of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also worth remembering a lot of these kids shows, and we're talking really young kids shows, end up doing extremely well because kids love to watch over and over and over and over again, as any parent will attest to, and has every Frozen song stuck in their head forever. Kids are repeat watchers, and so these shows will end up getting very high numbers as kids just hit the repeat button.
And it's cheap.
It's super
cheap. And there's a reason why Bluey and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse are constantly trending on Disney Plus, because kids are just watching it on repeat. It's
the same reason The Simpsons are. Obviously, little kids are not watching The Simpsons, but adults are watching The Simpsons the way little kids are watching Bluey or Mickey's Racers or whatever.
And also they go, kids go through phases, because my nephews were fully into PJ Masks, and they're a little bit older now. They've got into the Marvel superheroes shows, my little one, they love Spidey and His Amazing Friends. It's the PJ Masks stuff's all gone to the, it's all being got rid of because they're just not interested in that. They're not they've moved on. It's like all of us. You go through those shows, and then there's almost, and that's what happens with kid shows. And Disney have to be ahead of that and making the next show for the next set of kids that's coming along, and the one when you need to have them targeted for different ages and stuff. And Disney are fully, they know what they're doing with this, and they're going all in. And you can't. This stuff all gets a bit lost, I think, sometimes. Here's 9 new shows we're bringing out, and people go, "Oh, it doesn't mean anything." I hate to break it to you, but this stuff probably brings in more than most of the Disney Plus originals. They really, in the long run, in the long game.
It's especially when you add merchandise into the mix. Sure, Marvel brings in quite a bit of merchandise, especially from adult collectors who love seeing the new action figures, the new toys that comes out. Star Wars is in the same deal, but honestly, you go into the bedroom of a let's say 5 or 6 year old, that room will be one theme. It will be one TV show or book that they absolutely love, and those characters will be on everything. And then you just look at it, you know, as an adult, you're like, how much did this cost? And this is just one kid who's decked out their room. And like back in the day, it would have been like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Transformers or something like that. Now it's going to be whatever kids are watching now. There is so much money in this. It's crazy.
It was my mum FaceTiming me the other time. She was looking after my nephews, and they were because it's just drop off a load of toys and stuff. And they were like, "What sort of like? They're Infinity Stones, like you know, from like action figure packs." It's like yeah, they're all into the Ninja Turtles and the things. And it is just they go through cycles, and definitely I feel like now, Disney have got their system and it works. And this stuff might not seem big to us, but to a 4 or 5 year old, this is these are the big hits that they're going to be watching. So we'll be hearing a lot about these in the future.
It can be very difficult to get out of the mindset that every piece of media is supposed to be for me, but especially with a major brand like Disney or Warner Brothers or NBC or any of them, not everything is for you.
I think that's definitely feels like that on a couple of different fronts. Like with Disney, sometimes people they pigeonhole it like that's what that makes, and you can't put anything else that's not Disney. It has to be Mickey Mouse. It has to be cartoons. That's what they do. And then you got the other ones that like you say, like that I pay for Disney Plus, so therefore everything that comes on there needs to be for me. Everything it has to be what I want to watch. And in reality, TV networks and stuff don't work like that. You have things that work, some things that don't. They want you to like everything, and while you don't have any, as a viewer, we have no loyalty. I mean, we might think we do, but we can flick the channel. We can have different streaming services. I don't watch Disney movies. I was watching Man of Steel last night. Because it was on TV, and for some reason I'm sat there and I'm thinking, why am I sat here watching it?
I was going to ask you, why are you watching Man of Steel? Not because it's the DC movie, but because it's an awful movie.
I really liked it. And that was like that thing of like turn through the TV channels, and it was on, and it was like 11, quarter past 11 at night, and I'm about literally getting ready to go to bed. 25 minutes later, it's quarter to 12. I need to go to bed. Turn it off. Why am I watching? Because it hooked me in again. And yeah, but you can watch what you want.
And last thought on it, we try to be as impartial as we can when we do reviews. You will hear us say frequently, like, I didn't enjoy this, but the target audience will probably enjoy Koyama. And it can be difficult to do that sometimes, where you're just like, oh, this is so boring. But this is targeted at 10-year-olds.
I will admit, I do feel like I feel like we've gone through that stage now where we've especially with Disney Plus now with all the star content and the Hulu original, I feel like we've kind of moved into that thing of like, I don't feel the need to watch. I do try to watch most things, but if something comes on and it's aimed at 7-year-olds, we don't need to talk. It's like, I think, we're in the days where we had one thing to talk about a week. We're at a point now where we don't have to worry about that. Some other big news this week. And this is kind of funny because I remember saying this to you a couple of weeks ago. Is Disney going to be releasing season 3 of Love Victor on Disney Plus on June the 15th. It'll be coming to Hulu on the same date in the US. But more importantly, it's going to be coming to Disney Plus in the United States on the same date as everybody else is getting it. And we're getting all 8 episodes. And the first 2 seasons will also be added onto Disney Plus on that same day, even though you can stream them now. So it means basically season 3 is going to be on both Hulu and Disney Plus in the United States on the same day. This is a big shift as well with the idea of it being, I think it's a rated 16 show. I think that's what it is on this one. So they've got that ratings thing so they can bring it in. But this was a Disney Plus original, which was 2 had teen alcohol and sex issues and stuff that meant that the executives chickened out and sent it to Hulu.
No, let's be blunt. They chickened out because they're gay kids.
Yeah. We're going to call it as it is. They chickened out because they didn't feel Disney Plus audience could handle it, and they pushed it over to Hulu. Now here we are 3 years later. All of those things seem to be disappearing, and now we've got it on Disney Plus. Now it was so funny because I said this to you weeks ago. Of like, this is what they should do, and this is what I'd do, and they're doing it. And I was like, Yes, I do. I was just like, this makes so much sense to use this. It's a series about kids in high school. I mean, it literally is a high school series. I know there's been a lot of discussion this week. I think I have a new show on Netflix. It was Heartstoppers. I literally just watched the first episode before we started recording, just to see what that one's about. And yeah, the thing is now is, Disney Plus is opening up and really sort of, there's a thing as well of showing, that they have got that content that they, that they keep talking about. They need to put it put the money where the mouth is and put it on Disney Plus. I've watched both seasons. You watched season 2. I'm looking forward to season 3. This to me is great. I mean, I think this is this is exactly what they needed to do for this show for multiple reasons.
Yeah, the only thing that annoys me is it's everything dropping at once, and I'm not a binge watcher. But I know a lot of people do binge watch, so I hope that they check this out and they enjoy it. I forget, is it also dropping all at once in the UK and other territories?
Yes, yeah, we're getting it all on the same date globally, which is good, because the last season they kind of stretched it out for us with weekly releases. Again, I don't like us. Like we either get it the same as the US or don't do this kind of give it. Generally, as well with shows that are aimed more at teenagers, they tend to do the binge format more because it's more successful. And this is going to be the final season. But I thought this was a nice big series. Really boosts up June's offerings as well. And yeah, I thought this was good on so many different levels.
Yeah, I'm glad it's coming to Disney Plus. I'm glad people were able to see it. I'm glad it's still on Hulu too. We don't want to make Hulu subscribers feel like they're getting, a lesser deal because their stuff keeps moving over to Disney Plus or potentially over to like Peacock or something like that. But yeah, looking forward to this. I'm not going to binge it, but I'm looking forward to watching it over the course of a couple of weeks or so.
Yeah. It'll probably take me a little bit to get through it. I'm looking forward to this show. I enjoyed the last season. You could definitely see that tone difference between season 1 and season 2 when they knew they were on Hulu for season 2, because you didn't even bother with season 1. No. But yeah, so I can definitely see there was a bit of a difference. But yeah, this is good. Also,
I'd also like to say I'm glad that they announced that it's the final season up front. I mean, they announced it a while ago, and we talked about it back when it came out. But especially in light of like the recent things with Netflix and all the complaints about they keep canceling Netflix shows. The problem isn't that they cancel Netflix shows; it's that they often let the season come out and then they announce that it's canceled after the season is out. And this is not cancellation; this is finalizing. If the creators and the fans know, okay, this coming season, like they did with BoJack Horseman, this coming season is the last one. It lets you be emotionally set for it the way you want to be. You're not expecting it to continue on to another season, and it lets the creators wrap it up properly without, a cliffhanger because they thought they would have another season.
And also, more importantly as well, if this is a show about kids in high school,
yeah,
they only have so long to actually film these shows in high school. It was interesting because I was thinking, well, if there's something like 8 or 10 episodes per season, in reality, this was literally one old normal season. This, in the old days of like 22, 24 episodes, that would have been more. I think the quality is better with these shorter seasons. But yeah, no, that's a pretty good news. The side thing to that is, let's go the other way. It was just announced this morning that the Olivia Rodrigo Driving Home to You, a sour film, is going to be available on Hulu on let me just check the dates. Where is it going on this?
Well, while you're looking up, this is the one that's already out on Disney Plus.
Yes, it's out on Disney Plus already. Yeah. So it'll be so it's also going to be available on Freeform on Saturday, May the 14th at 9:55. I'm just trying. I think it's May the 1st. I think it's coming on to.
By available on Freeform, you mean it's going to be broadcast on linear television?
Yeah, it's going to be broadcast. It's going to be broadcast on linear television as well. I'm just trying to see here.
And there are a lot of people who wanted to see this, who couldn't see it because they didn't have a Disney Plus subscription. It's as near as I can tell an extremely popular CD.
Artist, yeah.
Well, this particular CD, but I mean, obviously, even before this, she was an extremely popular artist. So this is good. This will bring it to a lot more people. Sorry, you were looking up when is it coming?
Yeah, it's the 1st of May, so it'll be dropping on this weekend. See, this is interesting on a couple of levels. So first off, of getting it out to more people. So it's going to be on Hulu for everybody. It's also going to be on Freeform, which I think we're going to see more of, because I mean, we've talked about this in the past of, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to them putting like The Mandalorian on ABC this winter. Just, you know, bring on WandaVision, you know, in the winter, you know, use the content you've got, you know, and I think we'll be seeing more of that, because I know Discovery, Warner Brothers are going to be doing a similar thing with their plans. But this is, to me, and they even mention it in the, you know, the announcements of things like with Summer of Soul, A Man in the Arena, and Blackish. This is all part of the blending, the merging of the two platforms. This is all like, you know, merging it in, so you kind of getting more familiar with each other's content, you know, sharing that content between it all. This is like, okay, you did it with this show, doing it with Love Victor, doing it with this ESPN stuff. You know, we're really seeing now, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of it either over the next 2 years if they can't buy out Comcast, or even quicker if they can buy out Comcast. But I think we're going to be seeing much more of this like blending of the two, so that Hulu subscribers are getting used to Disney content in there, and it'll also work the other way with Disney Plus users being used to content coming in from the other platforms. So I think this is a big move on multiple levels. And I'm not looking at this and going, oh, they're taking something away from Disney Plus. I'm looking at, no, this is a more exposure on a Disney Plus original. It maybe didn't get the attention that it wanted, so they want to get it out to more, which makes more sense. But also, to me, it's more about the blending of the streaming services, and we're going to see more of it with the linear networks as well.
Well, I was going to say linear is actually what I want to talk about on this one, because it's not fair if we go, okay, linear, you showed this show, now bring it over to Disney Plus, with Disney Plus giving nothing back to linear. I like the idea, not, you know, day and date release, because that kind of moots the point, but going, yeah, you know what, Mandalorian season 1, it's been on Disney Plus for 2 years now, or what have you. Yeah, let ABC show it in the run up to, I don't know, Rogue Squadron or something like that. You know, it's a good way of building that synergy, and it acts as good advertising for Disney Plus as well. It's like, you know, you're finally getting to see Mandalorian over here on ABC or Freeform, but hey, it's on Disney Plus, and season 2 and Boba Fett are over on Disney Plus. You can watch those right now.
And also, I mean, they can literally like one showing or 2 showings. They don't have to have it on repeat and have all the rest of it. But I think we are going to see more of this, because I think they're probably going to work out pretty soon. And it always seems to have been like, well, streaming is taking everybody from linear. Great. But there's still money to be made here on linear. And these people might never come over to streaming. They might never come over. And therefore, why not share the content a bit more? I mean, I personally would be like, get rid of like the ABC on demand stuff, get rid of Disney Now. I'd get rid of all of this, all the extra, and be like, if you want it on demand, Disney Plus is the only place for it. And then you've got the linear networks then just for TV, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to have a browser where you can watch the latest ABC shows in addition to Hulu and Disney Plus. It just,
yeah, I don't think Disney actually has much say in that, though. I think most of those are agreements that they make with the distributors like Verizon and Comcast, where, you know, part of the deal of having Disney and Disney XD and Freeform on the linear packages is the content will be available to the home subscribers through the streaming video on demand networks. And that applies not to just Disney. If you are on a linear package, if you are a linear channel, whether it's, no matter who it's owned by, it's like the deal is it's going to be on video on demand the next day or within 24 hours or whatever.
Yeah, it's very tricky with the old deals, but I was meaning more in the terms of like, you know, after that like 14 days or 21 days or whatever it is, then it's there. I feel like, to me, this is, again, it's just that blending of everything to try and, I think it's just a case of blurring those lines that, you know, linear and streaming can work together to serve different audiences, get money from different places. But also, I feel this is just, I know that I think we all wanted this, you know, when they put the parental controls onto Disney Plus in the US, I think we all were expecting a much faster turnaround than they've been doing. It's been very slow. And, you know, I've said before about the idea, I think they're waiting till the ads come in the fall to kind of bring it all in. But it is like, okay, they are making moves, but it's just very slow.
Oh yeah, it's slow, but they also have to have the content to bring over, and a lot of it's going to be locked behind contracts with other streaming companies as well. But yeah, I think the major drop will be when the ad tier becomes available. But we will see more shows coming in, because even just doing this, putting in the Marvel shows, putting in Love Victor, putting in whatever the next thing will be, gets people used to the idea of, no, these are your parental controls. And there are shows on here that if you don't want little Timmy to watch, you need to have the parental controls in place for.
Yeah, it does feel like they are definitely taking their sweet time over it. Okay, so there we go. So that is pretty much the news. I actually went a little bit long. There was like, you know, because considering before having gone, I don't think there's a lot of news this week. So before we do that, quick shout out to all of our Patreon and YouTube channel members in the gold, diamond, and platinum levels. Thank you very much for your support. So what that means is they're helping towards funding the channel, funding the website and the podcast. So all of it really helps. A big thank you to Sarah for the executive level. Also, thank you to Andrew, Elliot, Jacob, Caled, Red Marsman, Aero, Chris, Cody, Darren. We've also got Daniel, the Juice, Lauren. And then over on the YouTube, we've got a big hello to Dana, Dan, Ben, Adam, Ricky, Dave, Mahmoud. We've also got My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. And also make sure if you are a member or a Patreon or YouTube channel members, check out right now the posters up for this week's Q&A. So I'll be doing that tomorrow live on YouTube. And obviously, if you're a YouTube channel member, you get to take part live in the live chat. So let's talk some reviews. So before we do Moon Knight, I just want to talk about Crush, which was a new Hulu original film that arrived on Hulu yesterday. It's like a love triangle thing at high school with lesbians. So they were kind of going away from Love Victor. We're moving, and this one here. This one, before we get into the movie, I was really annoyed with Disney on the release of this film, because they had been announcing it for weeks coming to Hulu. On the Canada list for April, a couple of weeks away ago, they literally had the one word Crush. They didn't even have the year next to it. So, I mean, I had a conversation with Matt who was also in Canada, going, well, is it the Hulu film? Or is it because there's like 4 other Crush films? We were like, it's like, well, it's the same day. Maybe they got US. We've heard that was it. We've heard there was no press release, there was no trailers, there was no posters, there was no mention of it. Just zip, just nada. And then yesterday morning, I turned on Disney Plus at 8 o'clock to do my normal check to see what it's like. Disney Plus UK, there it is. Australia, bing, there it is. Canada, there it is. And like, wow, so you've literally just dropped an original movie, a brand new movie you can only watch on Disney Plus internationally. You didn't even send a tweet about it until after it was out. It was just like, that is like, to me, it's just like awful advertising. I mean, it's just like, there's not even, it's just like, it just zitch. I'm like, what a shame. What a shame that this film didn't get any publicity at all. I mean, not even a poster or a trailer on the YouTube channel would have been at least something. I know they didn't have to, I'm not necessarily have buses and TV adverts, but posting the trailer and a poster on Twitter really wouldn't have been that much. And it was just really disappointing to see that they really just I feel like dropped the ball on the marketing of this. And it's not just in the UK, this was global.
Yeah, no, it would have been a good movie to kind of point out, with the whole thing going on in Florida right now, to kind of prop up and go, hey, look, and this isn't even like a response to what's going on in Florida, because obviously the movie was already made and it takes a very long time. So it's not like we just kind of threw it out there. It would have been a nice little, olive branch to kind of go, hey, we are actually standing behind our statement here. Look, we've got this video for you. That said, I can also kind of understand why they didn't, because it's an okay movie.
Yeah.
It's not a particularly great movie. It's not the movie you want to push out there and go, look, this is a fantastic movie. And I realize I'm kind of comparing apples to oranges here, but this is not like on the caliber, the same level as like Love Victor or something which isn't to say it's bad. It's a perfectly fine kind of cliche rom-com. The only thing that sets it aside from like 99% of every other teenage rom-com out there is that it's lesbians instead of a hetero couple.
Literally, this is good showing, sir. If you turned the main girl character into a boy, this would have been the most bland, generic teen romp movie there would have been. And that's not to take away from it. Literally, as along lines, if you just did that little swap with the character, this really wouldn't have. And he was just basically he fancied both sisters. That's literally it. It really there isn't anything. It's good that we've got the story, and it is about like young love and all the rest of it, and it was perfectly fine. There was nothing in here where I was like, this is awful. But it was just so generic. And that whole thing of it, okay, so they're lesbians. Is that the only thing that sets this apart from 20 to 30, 40 other teen films of the same kind? And that's what my problem with it. It was very generic. You could see the plot twists the first 5 minutes of the movie. You knew where the story was going. It's very predictable. The other issue I had with it was the mum of the main character, because she was so super accepting. It was a little bit like, it reminded me a bit of Sex Appeal, where the parents were exactly the same, and it was like, could we have and almost that kind of weird thing. I don't know, it sounds horrible, but it was like, it would have been nice to have some conflict somewhere in it of some realism, because it just felt a little bit like, and it's the same thing with Love Victor sometimes. It's just they did at least slightly touch on it with the basketball team, but everyone was so accepting and everything was so fine that it doesn't feel realistic. It doesn't feel like that's what the real world's like. And I don't know. It would have been nice just to have had a little bit of a pushback, maybe from a parent or a teacher or something like that, just to give something a bit more realism, because it just felt very just super bubblegummy.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that. I'm going to actually disagree a little bit, though, because I agree it's more realistic for them to have the conflict, especially you mentioned like the basketball team, Love Victor. But it is almost a cliche with LGBTQ movies where it is you against the world and like the two other people who are like you. And I think it is important that they have movies and shows out there for especially young people who are first exploring their sexuality to go, you know what, it's not all darkness and depression and the whole world's against you. Yeah, it might not be entirely realistic that everybody is with you, but having a positive message, I think, is also important, especially in this day and age. I do agree it's unrealistic, but I'm not going to hold that against them in this case.
No, I think it was more just, it was that my one little critique of just going, oh, it would have been like, maybe like have some little bit of conflict there to make it a bit more interesting as a viewer, because it was a bit like, I totally, the whole side of that thing makes total sense, but it would have just been, I think, I felt like that with, I said that before with Love Victor, but it feels a little bit like it's like even that party scene where they're all together, and it's like, it was all so PC to the point where it was like, I don't know. It's that kind of thing of like, we need a little bit of conflict in these things to kind of show us the real world. It's a very tricky subject, and they've got to find that balance. And as a viewer watching it, it was very vanilla. It was and it is, like you say, it is great that it's there, and it's great that these stories are there. But as a viewer, you want something sometimes a little bit more interesting to be. And yeah, it's a perfectly acceptable rom-com, but for me, I'll never watch it again. It was just very average.
It was, although I will also conversely say here that sometimes when you're trying to get people used to an idea, and we still are trying to get people used to the idea that gay people exist. Sometimes when you're making media for that, it is you kind of do have to go vanilla, because people are only willing to accept one major change, and to a lot of people, the existence of teenagers being gay or teenagers being lesbians is a huge shift in their head. So I get it. I get why they did it, but I do agree. I do want a little bit, more meat to the story, a little bit less, cliche.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously as a non-American, I mean, I've said about this probably 1,000 times before. I find sometimes, like with anything to do with high school in the US, it always feels a little bit cliched, and it never represents like real life. And that's that. And I've said that about every high school show and film that Disney put there. So it's not like it's just for this one, but it was just that one thing of just like I would have liked a little bit more of just something to kind of get it. I mean, like I said, it was just very vanilla. It was very, very safe, very easygoing. It was a nice film. I'm glad I watched it. I literally watched it. I saw it on because it was along the lines of I was like, well, if it's only on Hulu, trying to watch it's a lot harder. And of course, it's Disney Plus. Oh, I'll put it on first thing, and it was. I got to the end and went, yeah, okay, that's perfectly fine. There was nothing in there I didn't like, but it just didn't like go the other way. It didn't go anything like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like we're really lukewarm on it. There are actually a lot of good things to talk about for it. I think both the core actresses were really good in it. There's some good dialogue in it, and there's some fun little observations and quips and stuff like that. But again, if you're going to compare it to, say, Love, Victor, which again you can't truly compare gay men to lesbians. It's a different experience, but it doesn't.
So literally, this one, the sister, isn't it?
Yeah, granted. So it's a different experience. It doesn't hit as hard as Love, Victor, and also didn't what was it Heartstopper? Over on Netflix, is probably going to be the one that gets more attention because I have not seen that one at this point, but from the people who have seen it, it does sound like it tackles the issues much more aggressively than Crush does.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, a nice solid film. I definitely think I think it's good for like all teenagers to probably watch this one. I think this one will probably pick up a lot of it, and I think it'll be a long-term film. I think this will be what a lot of people watch like for years to come as an important film. It like I said, we've got nothing really bad to say about it. It wasn't amazing either, so that's not a bad thing.
The one thing I want to kind of track down is an actual I don't know, like a lesbian blogger or a lesbian reviewer and see what their take on it is, because it might be that there is something in this film that talks very specifically to the lesbian experience and that we as straight guys are just completely oblivious to. So if you're interested in this movie, I don't actually know who I would recommend you go check out, but see if you can find like a blogger who has more knowledge of this and check that out.
But then I think that's also the other thing as well. Like, this movie is not aimed at us. We watched it and we're sitting there going, yeah, fine. It's perfectly fine for what it was. We didn't not like it, and that's the important thing. But if you like, I think the best way is if you flip that main character, it really does feel like every other teen romp movie of all time that you would find on a streaming service, and that's good. And in some way, that's good. I think that's definitely, it is an important story that they've done. But yeah, it just, like we say, it could have done with a little bit more conflict. I mean, even just the whole thing with the whole art stuff and what the last, obviously the typical like prom kind of standing on a stage confessing their love for it was just like, I've seen this 1,000 times.
I can't even watch that scene, honestly. Like it doesn't matter. Lesbian, gay, hetero, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
That's standing in front of the entire school and making yourself so vulnerable. Like, I'm just like, no, can't watch this. Can't watch this.
And it's like I said, it literally is along the lines of it wouldn't matter what every movie they do this in. It's so just overdone. It's just they just really need to just move away from this whole thing. But yes, so that was Crushed. So that's definitely worth checking out over the weekend. Definitely. Also, we had the finale of Moon, or not the finale, with the penultimate episode of Moon Knight. Again, very different kind of episode this week. Definitely leaning much more into mental health issues than most Marvel films and series and stuff. I would say it was full of action, but at the same time, it was very, very different and just really just showcased the different side that this one is. Oh, hello.
Hello there. Yeah, we've got one cat hanging out back here, and now we've got a dog who wants to be on the show. But yeah, episode 5, Moon Knight. It's kind of the origin episode, though. Really, it has the explicit origin of where he first meets Khonshu and agrees to be Moon Knight. I did think it was a little cheesy to be like, you will be my
Moon Knight.
Oh, I know you had to get a name in there, but that was a little little on the nose there. That said, the rest of the episode was really entertaining, and well, entertaining might not be the right word. It was informative.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode.
No, I'm not saying it's not a good episode. I'm just saying it gets pretty brutal at points, and calling it entertainment, like, yeah, she's totally beating him with her belt right now. Okay.
But I thought that whole way that they introduced Stephen of where he came from and why he was created in Mark's mind was I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that whole aspect to it. The whole thing about really just coming, almost essentially Stephen had to go in order for Mark to kind of survive.
Right. Which is interesting, because unless they've retconned things in the comics, this is actually a very different origin for the characters. Not the part where he meets Khonshu. That's actually very accurate to the comics, even referencing a character who may or may not appear. But yeah, where Stephen came from, where potentially Jake may come from if he shows up in this series. Yeah, this is very different, but I think it's done really well. My
one. I don't think Jake's turning up. I don't know how they can do that in like literally. We've only got like 45 minutes left of this series. It feels like it'd be really rushed to bring him in, and just hinting at him will give us an idea of something for the future. I just don't see how we need him, because obviously they had the whole thing of conflict between Stephen and Mark. They got on the same page, and then he's obviously left. So he's going to need to get his suit back and all the rest of it. I don't know. I don't know how they got enough time to introduce him and do him justice.
I can think of a couple ways that they can do it, but we'll see if they decide to, or if they want to save him for, I'll say season 2, even though they're calling this a limited series, which would suggest not a season 2.
Moon Knight Jake.
future appearances.
Yeah.
They might be saving him for that. And they might just not do him at all. They might just be like, no, 3 personalities would be
they've hinted
too
at
many
it.
for people. They have hinted at it several times.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've got some theories on where it will go. I'll leave them alone though. Even if I do get them right, I won't claim them as right because I'm not publicly stating them. But we'll see. But there's a lot to wrap up in this next episode. And it does kind of have that feeling of like, oh, is there enough time for us to get a satisfactory conclusion out of this?
That's what I'm worried about, because it feels a little bit like he's got to get Khonshu back, get his suit back, and then go after Arthur and defeat Arthur, or at least set up a defeat of her. Right. I don't even know if he can defeat him in that amount of time, or at least, because the trouble is, it's a little bit as well. Arthur's not really. I don't feel like the villainous side of him yet have really been revealed of like what he's doing to. He hasn't really been bad. They need a little bit more. I know he has done stuff, but at the same time, I feel like I'm sitting there going into the finale going, well, he kind of doesn't really even got going yet. Yeah, he hasn't revealed his big evil plan, and he's not trying to take over the world kind of thing.
I mean, his big evil plan is to resurrect this other god.
Yeah,
and that's his big evil plan. Now, what the objective of the big evil plan, what it will set in motion, is what they haven't established. But we kind of know what he's going for.
I mean, also there's discussions of like who's going to do their cameo, because we haven't had any cameos yet in this series.
I'd be fine without there being any.
Blade's going to turn up. I'd personally not think. Are we going to get a connection with with Love and Thunder, because we've got gods involved? I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of wrap up in 45 minutes, and I
certainly wouldn't mind the hippo showing up in God and Thunder. I like the hippo. She's entertaining.
Yeah. Well, she might not come to a good stand in Love and Thunder.
She might not. No.
No. But yeah, especially with was it Gore, the God
murderer?
Yeah,
God butcher.
I mean, the God butcher is kind of an indication there of what's to come. But we got gods now popping up all over the place. There was a mention of the celestial plane from Black Panther, so there's an interlink with that. But this also might explain, like, I feel like, at least now with this episode, we've wrapped up the fact that we were in his mind rather than in an asylum. So that kind of has helped. I feel like the idea that nothing had happened, because now at least we know the things did happen. Did they? I don't know if they did. They must have.
There's still some open questions on exactly what is going on, and there's still some ideas that things that we've already seen prior to him ending up in the asylum may not have happened the way we thought they happened. So let's wait to see. And like I said, 45 minutes does not seem like enough time to satisfactorily wrap up everything. However, if they're going to get to the end of it and go, well, coming 2023, Moon Knight, Fist of Vengeance, or something like that, that so long as there is a satisfactory ending here, that'll be fine, even if it doesn't encompass everything that we want it to finish.
I mean, I'm quite happy with an open ending and just being like returning for season 2, or like you say, Moon Knight asterisk. Technically, it's not a limited series because we're putting the asterisks in, kind of thing.
Moon Knight and Tewara. In the combined adventure or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Moon Knight and Koshu. Technically it's a different series. So I would be quite happy with an open, if we know we're going to be getting a thing. I mean, I don't see how we can get Werewolf by Night in there and Blade. It just feels way too forced to get them all involved right now to kind of set up maybe in an end credit scene.
I was kind of thinking, like. Supposedly, Blade is the person who's talking off screen to Dane at the end of Eternals, right? When he's opening the Black Knight or the sword and all that. I could see an end credit scene here where Mark or Steven is walking down the street and you hear Blade off camera going, "Hey, I've got this thing going on," like he's doing the Mystic Avengers setup kind of deal.
Well, are they with that? Would they be the Midnight Suns with Blade?
Midnight Suns would be what they are, especially with the video game for that. I think due either later this year or next year, one or the other.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I'd be happy with it. But again, just really enjoyed this episode, even because my wife, because I was watching it, literally like 8 o'clock in the morning watching it, and my wife went, she goes, "Well, is he in a mental?" I was like, "Yeah, it's very different to normal." Like, oh, she goes, "It's very different to normal like Marvel stuff that you watch." It's just like, this is definitely different.
Which is kind of funny because at the same time, every time they're in the mental institute, I'm like, this looks an awful lot like Legion.
Yeah, but then Legion never counted. I mean, I'll be honest, I dropped out of Legion like halfway through season 1 because it was too wacky for me.
Legion was a crazy. I did not finish Legion, but it was a crazy.
But that's the trouble sometimes. It's like like it's all very fine doing this stuff, but you've got to find that line to.
That would be funny though if David showed up in this though, even it's like a brief cameo, just like, or Audrey Plaza, bring her into it as the Shadow King.
I don't know. I feel like we're at a point now where it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because obviously next week we've got the finale of Moon Knight to talk about. We'll also be talking about Doctor Strange. You got tickets? You've got tickets as well.
I got my tickets. I'll be seeing it on a late show on Thursday, and I need to double check and make sure that theater hasn't shown up because, again, by my theater, I was checking tickets for the entire day, and they're like, "Okay, sold out." And this was right after the tickets became available.
Yeah. So what we'll do is next week we will be obviously discussing them. But what we will be doing with Doctor Strange is we're actually going to hold it back for the following week. So it's not full on spoiler like the day after. So we're going to give it at least a week for you guys to be able to hear it, because I'll be off that week. So I thought actually that makes a lot more sense. So we can go in full spoiler zone on that film. So on that note, guys, thank you very much. We'll be back next week with another podcast. Remember to check out the Disney Plus videos, our news videos daily during the week. Also our Q&A. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com, and we shall see you guys soon. Later. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.